He is a great friend of the show and of my wife and my whole family. So I'm always thrilled when Mike Tirico joins the Rich Eisen show. How you been, Mike?
I am okay. I am sorry that you are not here and
Yeah.
in Atlanta. And
Me too.
sending my best to all your neighbors and all the folks out there in Southern California. It's scary to watch.
It
I
is.
hope everybody's okay.
So far, so good. Certainly here today,
Good.
and
Thank
appreciate those words, Mike. What do you think happens tonight, man? I mean, huge game this evening. Give me your thoughts here.
You said it last week, I think, during the pregame or postgame, one of the two. Both last week and this, really heavyweight matchups within the NFC that I think we'll look back and they'll go a long way to determine who ends up in what slots and who ends up in the playoffs. You know, Atlanta, even though they're third and they're 2 games back, they control their fate as of tonight. If they win every game the rest of the way, they win the NFC South, and this is exactly what they were last year at this time. They were 7-5, won their last 4, and got in. The difference this time, all 4 of their remaining games are in the division. That gives them the opportunity to. But 2 of them are against New Orleans. They play a really good team twice in 18 days. So if you think, okay, can you go 3-1 the last 4? You can't let the one at home against New Orleans slip. So this is a huge game, I think, for Atlanta. And for New Orleans, they got the division lead by beating Carolina. You love what both teams have, very similar. Good quarterbacks, great combos and running backs. Atlanta's got the difference-making receiver, but the corner Lattimore for New Orleans has been a rookie story this year. Young, improving defenses. This is a good game when the teams aren't good, and when they're really good, this has been a great game. So that's what I think we might see tonight.
Do you think is Lattimore playing, best you can tell? What do you think?
Sounds that way, which would be huge. He's only really played 6 snaps in the last few weeks, but every indication during the week was they thought he'd be close enough to play. So it's going to be one of those 6 o'clock when the NFL Network pregame show starts. I think that's when it starts.
Yes, it
does.
That's
when you keep an eye on the guys come on the field, make sure he's out there testing it, ready to go.
What about Ingram? What do you think with him?
Yeah, that's always scary when you have a running back who's playing so well and has a toe injury. I think it's encouraging that they kept him out of practice for a couple of days with the toe injury, but didn't declare him out. That almost sounds more like maintenance. So, again, same deal. Let's watch him when he comes out and warms up. But the short week makes those always a difficult turn for the coaches. I think this one may turn out okay.
Now, when you and other play-by-play folk and Collinsworth and other analysts meet with the coaching staff and with the players, that's a lot of that's background information. I understand that. But what did you glean about the Atlanta offense when you talked to Ryan and the rest of the crew there about what's going on with this offense this year, Mike?
Rich, they thought they were back rolling until they faced Minnesota. And that might be more a Minnesota thing than an Atlanta thing. Just to go back to the history, the people who aren't up to speed on it, Steve Sarkisian was obviously brought in as the offensive coordinator. The 3 prior offensive coordinators turned into head coaches around the NFL. So Matt Ryan's made some folks a lot of money, and Julio Jones as well. They didn't pick up where they left off last year, which was incredible numbers, MVP season for Ryan. Looked like the last 3 games before Minnesota, they were rolling. The point total was around 30. The open passes were there, using Mohamed Sanu in different ways. And then they ran into Minnesota, and they couldn't convert on 3rd down. So if you want 2 things to watch for tonight, Minnesota took the number 1 3rd down offense in the league, Atlanta, and held them to 1 of 10. And they did it with a lot of 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s. Charles Davis and Kevin Burkhardt did a great job calling the game, and Charles was on it right from the start. 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, those first 3 drives. So watch Atlanta getting some yardage to 3rd and manageable will be important. And I think the general feel was this offense should be back where it was a couple of weeks ago, not where it was on Sunday against the Vikings.
Mike Tirico joining me here before calling Saints-Falcons on NBC, NFL Network, and Amazon Prime, part of the triple cast, as we like to say. Now, this is an heralded, if you will, NFL rivalry. It doesn't get a lot of juice because it's not in the Northeast, right?
Right.
But, I mean, you were in the building for one of easily the most famous game between these 2 teams when the Superdome reopened. So you've seen a ton of these games between Falcons and Saints. What do you think of this rivalry that folks across the country might not know about before they settle in for this evening, Mike?
And you know what, Rich? I went back to even look. I think we did this on Monday night 3 different times, Atlanta and New Orleans. It's no disrespect to the Panthers. Obviously, they were in the Super Bowl this a couple of years ago. This is the rivalry of the South, of NFL, Southern football. This is the rivalry. These 2 have long been the big cities in the South. The emergence of Charlotte and other cities will mitigate that, and Florida cities over time. But these were the two franchises that have been down here for over a half century. They were bad together, and they got good together here. And their games have been very high scoring. I think the numbers over this decade, we've seen 9 of the 14 games they've played decided by 6 or less, 3 in overtime. And like I said, you got a lot of similarities in the teams. The fans seem to be fired up. Falcon fans like to play the Saints, and then the same deal when the Falcons go down to the Georgia Dome or to the Superdome to play. So these teams really get the best out of each other. And Matt Ryan said it. He said it best maybe to us yesterday. What do you think when you play in the Saints and Drew Brees? I hope I have the ball last, because it always feels like that last drive is win or lose. And you like that when guys go into a game with that attitude.
So exciting. And then, the Falcons move on to Tampa after that, when a lot of folks are wondering about the Tampa job. So I want to ask you this question. Since you have 10 years of experience at the worldwide leader calling Monday Night Football games, many of them next to Gruden, I think you know where I'm going with this, okay?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now, and you no longer work at the worldwide leader. So
yes.
What do you think? Do you think Gruden wants to at some point go back and not like you've just sitting next to the guy. I mean, I've been next to Mooch for a while, and I see he still gets into it. Do you think Gruden has in his mind a certain job and a certain set of circumstances that he would leave the booth to go back for, Mike?
We mean John, not his son Deuce, who's the strength coach, the assistant strength coach with Washington, right?
He wants to maybe coach with him. You know what I mean? So at some point.
I've always said this. I have no idea. And even when I was sitting with John and talking to him almost every day, we still stay in touch. I have no idea if he is ready to jump back. I know he's enjoying working with Sean and with Jay Rothman and Chip Dean, who produce and direct Monday Night Football. Mm-hmm. They've been a team there for 9 years, with Sean doing the last 2, and I know John loves that. I always, if I'm watching games on Sundays, I'll laugh. I'll send a picture to John. I can't go through one quarter without seeing a Gruden commercial
right.
Along the way. So I think he's loving the lifestyle of it, and I think he loves being a part of football at the quarterback camp and everything else. There is something that's always told me, and I've said this even when he was sitting next to me, and I didn't want him to go anywhere, and I don't want him to go now. I always said, I just think he's a coach, and I think he would want to coach one more time before it's done. That doesn't mean 2018 would be the right time or the right openings. I have no idea what's going to open, and I haven't talked to John about that necessarily. Right. But I really think, Rich, at some point here along the way, that John would like to coach one more time. Even though sitting next to me and sitting next to Sean is fun, winning and losing is still, as you said, sitting next to Mooch, it's an appetite that can't be satiated or satisfied by just wearing makeup and wearing a nice suit and tie. Mm-hmm. And so I think those guys are perpetually asking themselves, do I want to go back and do it? And I think at some point, John will give it one more shot. I don't know if it's college. I don't know if it's the pros. It might be high school. Who the heck knows? But I think at one point he'll go back. But I don't necessarily know it's this year.
64 games to go, Mike. Last one for you. 64 games to go. Game 1 of that stretch is tonight.
Yep.
Thanks
for taking my open, Rich. Good. Appreciate that.
My bad. Just
okay. It's good.
It's okay. Just do what most everybody did when we were back in the day at ESPN. Just steal it. Just take it. With 64 games to go, and you've called a ton of games, and you've been at Sunday Night Football. Best team you've laid your Tirico eyes on. Best team you've eyeballed.
It's them. It's New England. You go really. I mean, you follow the league every week, like you said. When we're doing this Thursday run, we're two games a week. And you're seeing every game on Sunday, like you guys do in Los Angeles on your NFL Sundays. And for the Patriots, you're going a couple of times this year. Okay, who is this guy? And who is this guy? And they win. And all of a sudden, you look up this Patriots defense that, oh my goodness, they've never given up yards and points like this in the first month of the season. Now it's 10, 12, 13. Patricia's beard keeps growing, and teams keep getting stopped. And they just have, again, everything. All the running backs they have, the receiving options that they have. Brady, who looks, he's going backward. He's the one person ever going backwards in age. They just still have all the answers. I'm really interested to see, because Pittsburgh has kind of played 3 games close enough just to win and get by. You can't do that against New England. That game next Sunday, assuming both get through this week, which is not easy. Pittsburgh, Baltimore Sunday night is going to be tough. New England without Gronk going down to Miami gets tougher. Can those teams give us one of those epic regular season games? Because you get the feeling that when it really matters in the end of January, Pittsburgh's best chance to win is going to be playing that championship game if that happens in Pittsburgh. So you almost think they have to get the game in the regular season to get the number one seed. So that,
big.
To me, is the biggest of the next 64 games. That one, which I probably, is halfway through the 64 next week.
That's right. I'm looking forward to that. So do you think in college football, before I let you go, that Nick Saban is calling up Syracuse to see how you beat this Clemson team? What do you think, Mike? What do you think?
I think we're just taking our lap. That was the best sign at College Game Day when they did College Game Day at the ACC championship. Syracuse is a quality loss. Somebody told them to sign or something to that effect. And I will say this: a lot was made, and understandably so. Clemson's terrific quarterback was not 100%, and then got hurt in the second half of that game. Clemson's defense was still out there, and Syracuse still scored in the 20s. They played the best game they've played in years on that night. So obviously Clemson is beatable, but man, that's a delicious game. Clemson and Alabama. Wow, for a semi. Wow, that's incredible. The playoff noise is silly. They need to go to 6 teams. If 4 of us were in business together, we would never cut the profits 3 ways. For these 5 conferences to have 1, or in this year's case 2, left on the side of the road is just nonsensical. If they go to 6, let the top 2 get a bye, play 3, 6, 4, 5, and get down to 4, and then keep the format going for the rest of January, where the dates are now. I just think every conference champion gets in, and then it gives us room for one other team, whoever the best of the rest is. I think that makes the games even more exciting. But Alabama, Clemson, I can't wait to watch that. New Year's Day is going to be fun for sure.
Mike, I look forward to watching tonight. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, pal.
You got it, brother.
Stay safe out there. You and Susie and the kids.
You got it. Same to you down there in Atlanta. Mike Tirico joining us here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.